there are a few cars that are quite as famous as the Porsche 911. It's a sports car which has been with us for decades, but throughout its many generations it has become a go-to car for those people who want performance, but also that everyday usability that means you can jump in, get behind the wheel and not fret too much about where you're going to park it or where you're going to be driving in particular. But these days, Porsche's lineup is dominated by SUVs, and in fact, cars like the Cayenne and Macan outsell the 911 considerably. So, considering that most people are opting for high-riding Porsches instead of the 911, is this a sports car that you should still be considering? Well, in today's video, we're going to be driving it to find out just what this latest 911 has to offer. There's a bit of a running joke about how the Porsche 911 looks pretty much the same in each generation, and this latest 992 series, well, yeah, it looks pretty similar to before. It's still a great design which is compact and well put together. It's got some trademark Porsche designs like the oval headlights and the rear which closes up and over the engine to give it that full clamshell looking effect. Some key touches on this car include the black alloy wheels. At the back you might notice the central brake lights. Well, there's two of them, and if you have a look at either side there are 9 slats, and that relates to 992, which is the generation of this Porsche. Porsche has always set the bar when it comes to in-car build quality, and the 911 is a great extension of this. Everything feels beautifully well put together, and that's just what you'd expect of a car costing well over £100,000. In terms of everyday usability, all of the controls are put just where you need them. I like that there are physical individual controls for the suspension and for the exhaust. That's very important, of course. And we've got these haptic style buttons up top for some certain ventilation aspects, but we've also got physical rocker switches for the temperature, and that's really useful, and it means it's easy to use when you're on the go. Lots of black plastic, which, as I always mention, I'm not a huge fan of, but the main screen up top is nice and intuitive and has all of your key functions as well. I will mention that the seats in this car are also very comfortable, and the seating position itself is excellent. This steering wheel is nice and round and it's not littered with too many controls, just the ones that you want for the volume and for the driving modes particularly. The gear selectors, interestingly, are quite stubby, and because that's such a key part of how you interact with this car, I feel like it would be nice to have some larger gear shifters behind the steering wheel, but that's quite a small niggle really. Of course, a car as compact as this isn't going to offer too much space in the back, and though this is a 4-seater, you're not going to get adults back there. It's really just for very, very small kids or children in child seats. There are actually ISOFIX points back there, so you will be able to fit those child seats, and realistically that's the only people who are going to be able to use that back space. Naturally, you can't expect a sports car like the 911 to offer too much practicality, but underneath here there's actually a decent amount of boot space. In fact, you've got 132 litres of luggage area, and it's nice and deep and nice and square, so it's quite good for carry-on bags or for softer bags that you might be using for your weekend away. Alternatively, you can fill it with loads of shopping, so those everyday trips to the supermarket are going to be well catered for too. There are a lot of different 911 cars to choose from, but the one we're in today is the Carrera 4 GTS, and I think it's something of a sweet spot in the 911 range. Why? Well, the 3-litre turbocharged petrol engine that is a flat 6, as you expect in usual 911 fashion, sends power to all 4 wheels rather than just the rear one. So in the UK, you've got that extra traction for when things are a little bit slippy, as they often are. Still got 473 brake horsepower, and that equates to a 0 to 60 mile an hour time of just over 3 seconds. It's a very rapid car considering it isn't even the fastest or most aggressive 911 you can pick. Thankfully though, for road use, it's brilliantly well judged, and there's loads of pliancy in the ride, particularly when you're travelling a little bit quicker. That means that even on bumpy, undulating roads, it always feels planted and very easy to get along with. In typical 911 fashion, all of the control weights are superb. The brakes feel wonderful, and the steering has loads of nice weight to it without feeling overly heavy. The visibility for such a small car actually isn't too bad either. We've got this nice big windscreen ahead of us, and because the car is quite compact, you feel like you've got some extra space in between the lines to use up, and it just means that when you're cornering, you've got that little bit of room that can make things just a bit easier. You can dial through plenty of different modes. You've got normal, sport, sport plus, and in sport plus it dials everything up to its most aggressive setting. You can adjust the suspension via a handy button on here, and for most road use I keep it in its softest setting of all. Just because you get that extra pliancy, it means you're not getting shaken off the road by those lumps and bumps. There's an optional sports exhaust on this version, and you can open it fully with the button ahead of you. When you do get some extra noise coming through into the cabin, but it's actually quite an understated car in terms of engine sound. On the downshifts you get a nice little burble too, but yeah, it's not overly obnoxious, and I think that ties in with the overall experience that you get from 911. It's not designed to be too shouty. Everyone knows just exactly what it is, and that's quite cool really. You just get a planted sense with a 911 that is, well, you can track it through the many generations of this iconic sports car. This latest 992 version just dials into that a little bit more, and that's what makes it such a good everyday sports car. You've got good visibility, the ride quality isn't bad at all, and it just doesn't feel too difficult to drive, be that driving quickly or slowly. This latest 992 generation of Porsche 911 is almost annoyingly well-rounded. It's a car that you could use each and every day thanks to its decent on-road comfort, but should you find yourself on a twisty section of highway, this is a car that is still going to put a big smile on your face. This Carrera 4 GTS model feels like something of a sweet spot, particularly for the UK where the additional traction is going to come in really handy, but regardless of which 911 you choose, you're in for a real treat. Just remember, practicality isn't going to be at the foremost of your priorities with this car, but thanks to a reasonably decent frunk and that extra space behind the driver's seat, it's a little bit more spacious than you might expect. Thank you for watching this Motors review on the new Porsche 911. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, why don't you leave us a like underneath and let us know in the comment section what you think of this latest generation of 911. Are there any features that you'd like, or are there some features you don't like? Just let us know. And since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors YouTube channel, and if you click on that bell icon, you'll get a notification each time we upload a new review just like this one.